everyone, I am Neckle Hamster and welcome back to my channel. This is part 2 of covering this Spongebob iceberg created by Reddit user awkward_AD3769. If you're unfamiliar with icebergs, the idea of them is that as you dive deeper into the iceberg, the information/topics are more and more obscure. The tiers of this iceberg are labeled as Normie Sponge, Casual Sponge, Sponge Fan, Sponge Addict, Sponge Enthusiast, Researcher Sponge, Extreme Sponge Addict, and My Life is All About Spongebob. In part 1, I covered the first 3 tiers, and in this video, I will cover Sponge Addict and Sponge Enthusiast. As stated in part 1, I'm not covering every single entry. I will mostly just be omitting anything to NSFW for YouTube. If you're interested in researching any skipped entries or anything I've already covered, I will leave the link to the original post down below. Alright, enough of this intro, and without further ado, here is part 2 of the Spongebob iceberg. Tier 4, Sponge Addict. The very first entry that I will be covering is titled Burger King Spongebob Balloon Theft. Some may like to call this the sponge nappings. This was a series of thefts that occurred in various states across the United States in 2004. As the SpongeBob Wiki puts it, on November 11, 2004, when the SpongeBob movie promotion started at Burger King, around 4,700 Burger King locations in the United States put this gigantic 9-foot inflatable SpongeBob. At first, everything seemed to be going fine. That was until about a month into the promotion when several Burger King locations started to report that their SpongeBob inflatable was missing. This started the phenomenon known as sponge nappings. This resulted in many people who had supposedly stolen these inflatables to sell them on eBay for a large amount of money or leave a ransom note. Several news outlets and Burger King locations around the US said that if anyone had found their inflatable SpongeBob somewhere or known potentially who had stole the balloon, they would give that person burger bucks, which was good for a year's supplies of original Whopper sandwiches. Pearl's mom. Aside from the fact that Pearl's mom was a whale, there's not much information out there about her. Although, there are plenty of theories all over the internet as to what happened to her / where she went, and some of these include divorce, she passed away when Pearl was born, Krabs killed her in a war and decided to take Pearl as his daughter out of pity, Krabs used her as Krabby Patty meat, and many others. Like I said, these are theories, so none of them have been proven, but they're just kind of interesting. Smitty Werber Jaegerman Jensen. He was number 1! Smitty Werber Jaegerman Jensen first appeared in the episode titled One Krabs Trash. The episode begins with Krabs hosting a yard sale filled with trash. He sells SpongeBob this soda drinking hat, and SpongeBob loves it. However, moments after selling it to SpongeBob, Krab gets offered $1 million for this hat. So in order to get it back, he goes to SpongeBob's house and scares him with a grocery list. A ghost. Instead of returning the hat to Krabs, however, SpongeBob found Smitty's grave in the cemetery and buried it with him. This caused Krabs to go to the cemetery to dig it back up. This action pissed off Smitty, then brought back him and a bunch of other dead fish in the cemetery back to life to fight for the hat. But in the end, Krabs ended up winning. Couple fun facts about Smitty Werber Jaegerman Jensen. Number 1, he was actually the first instance in the show to portray death. Number 2, the Jaeger part of his last name is not featured on his tombstone anywhere. And most of all, he was number 1. It's a Wonderful Sponge. This was the original name for the SpongeBob movie that came out in 2015. It's a Wonderful Sponge was eventually renamed Sponge on the Run. It was difficult to find out the actual reason for the name change, but I'm assuming it was changed to better fit the plot of the movie. And if you don't know, the plot of the movie is about Gary going missing, prompting SpongeBob and Patrick to go on the road. Thus, Sponge on the Run. Mr. Puff is in Shell City. I've actually basically already covered this entry back in my last video, but I'm going to cover it again. This is a theory / is just basically the truth. In the show, it is canon that Mrs. Puff's husband is dead, and in the SpongeBob movie, when SpongeBob and Patrick get to the Shell City gift shop, the camera pans over all of the merchandise. One of the pieces of merchandise is a lamp made out of a pufferfish. It is theorized that this lamp is actually Mr. Puff. It has an uncanny resemblance to the Mr. Puff lamp that is shown in the actual show itself. Hashtag save SpongeBob. This is a hashtag that has gone around the internet many times. Essentially, every time there would be a rumor that SpongeBob is ending, the hashtag would circulate around the internet again. The most infamous use of this hashtag was in 2014 when this screenshot was floating around. It reads, SpongeBob will be canceled on January 28th, 2014. To save SpongeBob, repost and tag hashtag save SpongeBob. The embarrassing snapshot of SpongeBob at the Christmas party. The episode titled The Secret Box from season 2 is centered around this embarrassing photo. Throughout this episode, Patrick has a secret box in which he refuses to show the contents of. At the end of the episode, after SpongeBob is tricked into believing the box only contains a piece of string, it is revealed by Patrick that if the string is pulled, there is a secret compartment that contains this embarrassing photo of SpongeBob at a Christmas party. The episode, in its current version, does not actually show the picture, but a lot of people, including myself, remember that at one point it actually showed the picture. People remembering it to be a picture of SpongeBob bent over with ripped pants, low-key looking drunk. There are several fan-made creations of this picture. Most are honestly pretty weird, like this one of SpongeBob just getting done having kissed Gary. Goofy Goober is a metaphor for beer. This again is another theory, and the theory is exactly what the title states. A lot of people believe that Goofy Goober ice cream is a parallel for alcohol or beer. Honestly, this does make a lot of sense, especially considering SpongeBob and Patrick seem to get absolutely trashed after spending a long night eating ice cream at Goofy Goober's. Slendy Pants. SpongeBob Slendy Pants is a SpongeBob-styled version of the Slender Man game. If you're not familiar with Slender Man, he was a horror figure, started out as a creepypasta, turned into video game that raged throughout the mid-2000s in popularity. However, in the SpongeBob version, instead of collecting notes, you must collect at least 8 Krabby Patties in order to survive. Krabby Patties are made of crabs. This is yet another theory that Mr. Krabs used crab meat to make Krabby Patties. This would explain why we have never seen another crab in in the show aside from him. However, this has been debunked by one of the main animators of the show. Vincent Waller stated there is absolutely no meat in the Krabby Patty, so there you have it, no crabs in a Krabby Patty. Got Milk ad. This is a Lost Media's video of a Got Milk promotion featuring SpongeBob and Patrick. This ad was first run in 2001, then the Lost Media file was finally found by a fan in October of 2022. Your Boy Sponge. Your Boy Sponge is a rapper who uses the voices of SpongeBob characters to make music and has been around for about a year or so. The music is on Apple Music, Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube, and Your Boy Sponge actually has 617,000 subscribers here on YouTube. The music videos are posted here on YouTube, and the animation is actually pretty good, and the music itself is relatively entertaining. I liked it. SpongeBob Badass Pants. This is a meme slash picture slash fan art of our beloved Sponge wearing one of those nerd douche gray sweaters with a really buff human male body. He just kind of looks like a Sigma male. I hope that's your nose. In season 3, episode 5, titled As Seen on TV, there is this scene where SpongeBob is buried under the sand with only his nose sticking out. Some people remember Mr. Krabs saying, "I hope that's your nose" to SpongeBob. This is a dick joke if you're not getting it. And it is believed that it had been censored out of this episode. However, original recordings of this episode have been posted around and it was never actually in the episode. Some people do believe that this is the Mandela effect at play because so many people remember it being said in the episode. I don't ever remember it, but some do, I guess. The Bikini Bottom Whore. This is a fan comic created by Reddit users still in the simulation. It started as a one-shot story involving Patrick brutally killing SpongeBob and then subsequently eating him. After receiving a lot of positive reactions, the creator decided to continue on with the story. The entire story is posted in various places around the internet, and I will post a link to it in my description. This story is a horror/thriller with the plot line continuing on to have SpongeBob and the gang work to avenge SpongeBob's death. Top 10 SpongeBob Funny Faces.wmv. This is a video originally posted on YouTube on September 3rd of 2011. It has some classical music playing in the background while the video cycles through the apparent top 10 funny faces shown in the show. Guys, in 2020, SpongeBob might actually look like this in animation. This is a video clip from a set of twin YouTubers, Extreme Games. Many people have taken this and made a meme of it, inserting silly pictures into the 2020 side, or just simply making fun of these twins. Usually I would feel bad for people making fun of other people, but these twins have like literally faked their death and faked serious illnesses, so I don't really care at all. Girly Teen Girl. This is the character who appears in the episode titled The Slumber Party. In this episode, Pearl is having a slumber party and Mr. Krabs is fiending to know what is going on inside of his house. So in Girly Teen Girl, the new girl from Farawayville who looks strikingly similar to SpongeBob appears at the doorstep of the Krabs residence. Pearl and her friends throw tomatoes at her because they believe that she is SpongeBob trying to spy on them. Girly Teen Girl then runs away crying and it is revealed that that in fact was not SpongeBob. Then SpongeBob calls her ugly. Poor Girly Teen Girl. 20 Fat Hill Revolution. I'm pulling this from the YouTuber fandom wiki because I could not explain this any better. 20 Fat Hill is an Indonesian YouTuber best known for creating 10-hour loops of popular cartoons, memes, and most notably of SpongeBob SquarePants. In 2016, he started making 10-hour loops of famous SpongeBob SquarePants scenes. The videos ended up being very successful and started a new renaissance and interest in his channel. However, turbulence was starting to rise by then when Viacom took down his first account. 20 Fat Hill would make another new account, but shortly after, Viacom would also take that one down. The cycle would continue until he made his current account, 20 Fat Hill Revolution. So essentially, this YouTuber just kept getting his videos taken down for posting too much SpongeBob, and Viacom got pissed off and took his channels down multiple times. So the revolution is him making yet another account. And that was the last of tier 4, and now we are on to tier 5, Sponge Enthusiast. The very first entry I will be covering in this one is Goo Lagoon is oil. This is a fan theory that Goo Lagoon is an oil spill. However, this actually makes zero sense. Goo Lagoon is a pool in the SpongeBob universe that appears to be on the seafloor. It could not possibly be oil because oil has a lower density than water and thus it floats on the surface. More likely than not, Goo Lagoon is actually a brine pool. A brine pool is a pool of water that is on the seafloor. The water in a brine pool has a higher salinity, at least 125% more than the water around it, thus making it more dense and sinking beneath the regular seawater and making it darker in color. The only issue with the brine pool being Goo Lagoon is that fish can't survive in brine pools due to the lack of oxygen and high salt content. However, fish don't live there, they just swim there, so it's entirely possible and likely that Goo Lagoon is actually a brine pool and not an oil spill. SpongeBob leaks your IP address. This is a meme that is typically in video form. It starts by showing a cheery picture of SpongeBob and then an IP address is shown on the screen. Presumably, these videos are doxing the people who are watching. Understandably, a few people were pretty freaked out when they would come across these videos, but it's mostly just funny and there have been many recreations, many videos, many pictures recreating this meme. The Bikini Bottom Triangle. The Bikini Bottom Triangle is a Bermuda Triangle-esque location in the SpongeBob universe that first appears in the episode Welcome to the Bikini Bottom Triangle. The triangle is an island that sits at an unknown location in the ocean and is populated by mermaids. It's entirely filled with other people's junk that the mermaids have stolen. They steal things by singing, which then opens up a giant vacuum that sucks up the junk. This episode was originally going to be named Welcome to the Bermuda Triangle, so the location is truly meant to replicate the idea/feels of the triangle. Also, as a side note, I recall being absolutely terrified of the Bermuda Triangle. As a child, I really thought that it was going to be a lot more of a threat than it actually is. Patchy is insane. I feel like it's pretty well known that Patchy is a pirate that is obsessed with SpongeBob and is the host of a variety of SpongeBob special episodes. He's the president of the SpongeBob Fan Club and has a ton of SpongeBob SquarePants paraphernalia. The idea that he is actually insane is a fan theory based on his uncanny actions throughout the series. He's supposed to be a pirate, but he lives in a ranch house in the suburbs of Los Angeles. Also, Potty the parrot, his beloved bird friend, is very clearly a puppet. He also consistently has moments where he meets/speaks to SpongeBob that are seemingly and usually just hallucinations of his own. So all of this added together creates this fan theory that all of these instances are just Patchy being insane. Squidward 64 trailer. This is a YouTube video that begins with a scene of Squidward being thrown into a picture frame. Then it shows Super Mario 64 before, but instead of it being the traditional game, it has a Bikini Bottom as the setting and Squidward as the main character. Other versions of this video differ slightly, where instead of having Bikini Bottom themed terrain, it's the normal game with a bunch of Squidward PNGs pasted on random characters or places. SpongeBob killed a lot of people. This is not a theory, it's just true. It's been heavily implied and at times even explicitly shown that SpongeBob's actions have killed many Bikini Bottom citizens. There's literally a scene where Sandy tells SpongeBob that he can't go to the moon with her because of his mishap with her whirlybird machine. And then the camera pans to show a window that reveals a bunch of tombstones, implying that SpongeBob's accident has killed a bunch of these people. Aside from that, there are so many other instances in which SpongeBob caused mass destruction in the city with fire and chaos raging while people scream and run around. So yes, SpongeBob has canonically, at the very least, committed mass manslaughter. Human canon versions of SpongeBob and Patrick. This is in reference to a Nickelodeon-released live-action special. This featured the SpongeBob characters venturing onto the surface and becoming real-life people. The canon real-life versions of the characters were actually just the voice actors dressed up in costumes. Survival the SpongeBob the Killer. This is a Roblox SpongeBob-themed survival game created by Mr. Flimflam. It has a really silly name and is actually a parody of another Roblox survival game titled Survival the Jeff the Killer. Survival the SpongeBob the Killer is extremely low effort and it is filled with many low-quality free models. The creator of this game actually has a YouTube account titled Flamingo in which he has posted several gameplay videos, and these videos are actually what first launched the game into success. Over time, the game has fell out of popularity, but in its prime, it had millions of plays. No more getting nailed. In the episode Life of Crime, SpongeBob and Patrick decide to steal a balloon, which actually turns out to be free in the end, and then they flee their homes. It's rumored that in the original edit of the show, while SpongeBob and Patrick are talking about what they are going to leave behind when they're fleeing their homes, SpongeBob says, "No more getting nailed," and then it showed Patrick hammering a nail and board into his forehead. They first replaced this with a scene of SpongeBob saying, "No more getting mail," and then Patrick still hammering the nail into his forehead, and then it was just SpongeBob saying, "No more getting mail," because hammering a nail and board into your forehead is unnecessarily violent, I guess. If this quote was actually in the show, it was likely removed to the fact that getting nailed is a sexual innuendo for, getting laid, getting boned, Apparently, one of the show animators said that this was never actually in the episode and people are just misremembering it. So it's kind of similar to the case of another entry in the previous tier. SpongeCry.avi. This is a Lost Media creepypasta. This poster claims that they had found a recording of a rare SpongeBob episode, but when they pressed play, it was nothing like the typical show. The episode was 6 minutes and 4 seconds long and featured many unsettling and disturbing scenes. It first began with SpongeBob crying, hence the title, and then the camera pans to show Gary, but instead of a normal Gary, he was a rotting corpse that had been mauled to death. The rest of the video contains scenes of SpongeBob either crying, running frantically, and an odd scene of the Krusty Krab just sitting silently. There have been a few fan-created videos that are posted here on YouTube if you are interested. Torture Dungeon and Snowball Effect. The episode Snowball Effect is the one where SpongeBob, Patrick, and Squidward have a snowball fight. The Torture Dungeon is a deleted scene that was actually supposed to air in the original episode, but it was cut before the episode had actually aired. The Torture Chamber was a snowman torture chamber that was supposed to be inside of Squidward's fort. If you remember, he built this giant fort because he got a little too into the snowball fight. I believe that this was cut actually because of time constraints, not necessarily due to the dark nature of the scene, considering the fact that there is a scene in another episode titled Suds where Patrick and SpongeBob are in an actual torture chamber, so I'm pretty sure this was just cut due to the fact that the episodes need to be around 11 minutes long. Sponge. This is a Friday Night Funkin' mod that features SpongeBob as an antagonist for the main character, who the player playing the game plays as. He cusses and is overall very abrasive and rude, like nearly all the foes in Friday Night Funkin', and for Sponge, there are 7 playable songs in this mod. The creator of this mod kept getting a lot of backlash from people because they kept wanting more and more from him, so he got too stressed out and then just kind of quit the project overall. There were a few unfinished songs from him and a few other unfinished parts of the project that he eventually released to the public. This next one I'm gonna have a little bit of difficulty pronouncing, so I'm sorry if I say it wrong. Sponge Fiforma. Sponge Fiforma. Sponge Fiforma. Oh my gosh. Sponge Fiforma SquarePantsy. New to science in 2011, this is a fungus/mushroom that was adorably named after SpongeBob due to its sponge-like look. Its common name, so its non-scientific name, is SpongeBob SquarePants Mushroom. This is just so cute. They named a fungus after SpongeBob. How legendary is that? Trail of the Snail. This is a SpongeBob-themed online game. Here's the description of the game that I found on archive.org. SpongeBob is trying to find Gary, who ran away since SpongeBob did not feed him. SpongeBob goes to multiple locations to find him, which include Patrick's house, Squidward's house, Krusty Krab, Hats, the Chum Bucket, Bum's Alley, Martha's Craft Zone, and Granny's house. In each area, multiple characters would be around, most of them resembling the character the player is looking for. Every character has a twin. The game is played by using SpongeBob's paddle to plunk the pairs of twins, which disappear if they are identical, until only one character is left, the one the player is looking for. Plunking the character the player is looking for makes them have to restart the area. There's also a timer, and the player loses if the timer runs out. Bubbles, jellyfish, and blowfish can be clicked for bonus points. At the end of every level, there is a bonus round in which many bubbles, jellyfish, and blowfish appear, which can be clicked for bonus points again. There is a total of 8 levels in the game. The game ends when the player beats the final area or runs out of time. This game is essentially just a matching game, but despite the simplicity of the game's design, I actually find it kind of difficult to beat it, especially considering I was playing on my laptop, so it's kind of hard to click around to each character and get them out before the time ran out. I will leave a link to the game in my description below if you have any interest in playing it. And nothing happened. This is a meme that begins with Krabs, SpongeBob, and Squidward happily dancing to some uplifting music. Quickly, the scene would become more and more distorted, with the 3 dancing over tops of scenes of destruction, the music becoming more spooky, and the characters creepily warping. I will link the video down below if you want to watch it yourself. Nickelodeon stole SpongeBob fan art for a SpongeBob promo. In 2019, SpongeBob fan Matt Salvador said that Nickelodeon had stole his fan-made SpongeBob background in a SpongeBob Lego promo. This is the original fan art, and this is the promotion. I just find it really bizarre that they would steal a fan's art, considering that there are so many possibilities abilities when drawing the SpongeBob terrain, and they really could have easily made something else. You know, they have so many animators aboard. I feel like it was totally unnecessary to steal someone's art, but they did, and a lot of people are disappointed by it. That was the final entry in part 2 of this iceberg. This video was considerably shorter than my first one, simply because I only covered 2 tiers instead of 3. There will be a part 3 posted coming soon, covering the final 3 tiers. Thank you so much if you have stuck to the end of this video, and if you have survived thus far, please leave me a comment telling me your favorite SpongeBob character, minus Squidward. If you want to support me and want to keep seeing more of my content, please considering liking this video and subscribing to my channel. It really would help me a lot. Again, huge thank you to the creator of this iceberg for even making this video possible and putting so much time and effort into creating this iceberg. And again, I will link this down below in the description if you're interested in looking at the original Reddit post that I found this on. Thank you all again so much for sticking through this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!